I don't think so. I've got some things I've been wanting to do for a while, and we've been building cars. We've been really busy. There's definitely a different direction I want to go, and here I just can't. I can't do both.
Nobody likes Richard, and nobody ever liked him. Those heavy words were uttered on camera by someone who stood right beside Richard Rawlings for years, fully aware that millions of viewers would eventually hear them. The world saw a dynamic duo building mechanical masterpieces, but behind the scenes, a far darker reality was unfolding. One man was getting rich, while the man with the golden hands was quietly losing his mind. Back in 2012, when Fast and Loud first hit television screens, viewers fell in love with the fast-paced, high-octane world of Gas Monkey Garage. On paper, the show was a dream come true for car enthusiasts. In reality, it was an absolute pressure cooker designed to push human beings to their absolute limit. Aaron Kaufman was not a television actor playing a mechanic. He was a genuine, self-taught builder who poured his heart and soul into every single weld, engine swap, and custom panel. So when Discovery Channel demanded 12 custom builds in just 24 weeks, Richard Rawlings immediately said yes without hesitation. But Richard was not the one doing the heavy lifting in the shop. That impossible deadline fell directly on Aaron's shoulders. To meet those absurd TV schedules, Aaron began working 80, 90, and eventually over 100 hours every single week. He left his home in Fort Worth before sunrise and often did not return until long after midnight. Some nights, he did not even bother going home at all. He would curl up on the cold concrete floor or inside the back seat of a customer's car, catching a few precious hours of sleep before grabbing a garden hose out back to wash off the grease. While Aaron was sacrificing his health and personal life, Richard was walking into the shop for a few hours of filming, cracking open a cold drink, and leaving as soon as the cameras stopped rolling. The contrast between the two men could not have been greater. But things were about to change. Do you think you would have stayed in a work environment like that for as long as Aaron did? Let us know in the comments below. By the end of that brutal first season, Aaron's childhood best friend calculated that Aaron had logged well over 1,300 grueling hours under the hood, while Richard had barely put in 200. Yet every time the cameras rolled, Richard acted like the mastermind behind every successful build. During one interview, a producer asked Richard how important Aaron really was to Gas Monkey Garage. Richard just laughed and joked that he kept Aaron chained to the floorboards so no other shop could steal him. The crew laughed along, treating it like a harmless joke. But Aaron was lying underneath a car right beside them, covered in grease, listening to every single word. He was burning out at a terrifying rate, but the network and the public could not get enough of him. When the show premiered in the summer of 2012, it instantly skyrocketed to the top of the ratings charts. Fans adored the contrast between the loud, fast-talking salesman and the quiet, brilliant craftsman who turned rusted junk into automotive art. What the millions of fans watching at home never realized was that Aaron was living in a completely different reality than the one broadcast on television. In fact, throughout his entire 5-year run on one of the biggest reality shows on the planet, Aaron only watched 3 episodes. He watched the premiere out of curiosity, and later caught 2 episodes of a special because a group of friends threw a party and forced him to sit down. Out of more than 100 episodes, that was all he ever saw. When people asked him why he refused to watch his own massive hit show, his answer was surprisingly dark. He knew that if he watched the finished episodes and saw how the producers edited his words, manipulated the drama, and portrayed his relationship with Richard, he would end up hating what he saw. And if he hated the show, going into work every single morning would become an unbearable nightmare. So he made a silent deal with himself. He decided to completely ignore the television broadcast, tune out the media noise, and strictly focus on the metal in front of him. That was the only way he could keep showing up to the shop without completely snapping. But there was a hidden problem that nobody saw coming. Aaron was not just another guy looking for his 15 minutes of fame. He was a pure fabricator, a self-taught mechanical genius who learned the trade by tearing broken machines apart in small Fort Worth garages long before a television camera ever entered his life. He was the kind of person who cared deeply about proper engineering, structural integrity, and timeless design. To him, custom car building was not about making a quick buck or pulling off a flashy stunt for views. It was a craft that demanded time, respect, and uncompromising precision. When Richard Rawlings first walked into a local Dallas auto parts store back in 2004, he saw a young Aaron working on a suspension setup. Richard watched him for barely 20 minutes, but that was all it took. The calm, surgical focus Aaron brought to his work was something you simply could not buy or teach. Richard hired him almost immediately, but back then, Gas Monkey Garage was nothing more than a struggling side hustle while Richard sold medical equipment. Aaron came on board as a junior mechanic, but within a few short years, he was single-handedly running the entire shop while Richard chased sales, sponsorships, and big marketing deals. Before the TV executives ever called, the two spent thousands of miles on the open road together, hauling custom cars to events across the country. The routine was always the same. Richard would drive through the morning, then crack open a beer and hand the wheel over to Aaron, who would drive straight through the night while Richard slept. Richard later looked back on those road trips as some of the best moments of his life, filled with big dreams and long conversations. But Aaron rarely spoke about those trips at all in later years, revealing a massive divide in how each man viewed their partnership. When Discovery Channel finally greenlit Fast and Loud, the show blew up faster than anyone anticipated. The network executive who took a gamble on the show watched it become a global powerhouse. But as the ratings surged, the dynamic inside the garage turned toxic. Richard famously claimed years later that Aaron was never actually his friend, only his employee. Yet for over a decade, Aaron's entire life revolved around building Richard's vision. The turning point came when the producers tried to step past the garage doors and take complete control over Aaron's personal life. Around the third season, Aaron decided he wanted to shave off his signature long beard. He mentioned it to the production team as a polite heads-up. But instead of a simple nod, the executives looked him in the eye and gave him a hard, non-negotiable no. They told him his facial hair belonged to the network branding. Aaron froze, realizing they were dead serious about controlling his own face. What happened next shocked everyone on set. Aaron looked the producers straight in the eyes and made his position terrifyingly clear. He told them he did not take well to being ordered around like a puppet. He calmly explained that if they wanted him to keep the beard, all they had to do was ask him like a human being. But if they tried to command him like a piece of corporate property, he would walk straight into the nearest store, buy a disposable razor, and shave every last hair off his face live on camera while the tape was rolling. The producers instantly backed down, realizing Aaron was not a man to be pushed around. They asked him politely, and he agreed to keep the look. But deep inside, a permanent fracture had formed. Aaron realized he was no longer viewed as a master mechanic, he was being treated as a television character, a branded product called The Bearded Wonder. As the seasons rolled on, the creative suppression only got worse. Early in the show's run, Aaron was allowed to build incredible, high-performance machines like a twin-turbo 1963 Ford Falcon built specifically for the treacherous Pikes Peak Hill climb. That build took months of grueling fabrication and pushed his engineering skills to the absolute edge. It made him feel alive. But as the network chased higher profit margins, they demanded cheaper, faster, and simpler builds that could be flipped in a matter of days. Aaron tried to fight back for the sake of real craftsmanship. He pitched a brilliant, highly complex EcoBoost-powered De Tomaso Pantera that would have required world-class engineering and 12 solid weeks of custom metalwork. The producers rejected it instantly. It was too expensive, too slow, and took too long to build for reality television. Every ambitious idea he brought to the table was crushed under the weight of commercial TV deadlines. While Richard thrived in the high-stakes, chaotic environment of quick flips and loud negotiations, Aaron was suffocating. Before we reveal the silent moment that changed everything forever, subscribe now because stories like this prove that real success is never as simple or clean as it looks on a television screen. By 2016, Aaron stopped fighting. He stopped pitching new ideas, stopped arguing with executives, and simply went through the motions on camera. The passion in his eyes had completely vanished, replaced by the hollow expression of a man doing hard labor. His close friend Scott McMillan watched the transformation up close, later noting that while many people respected Richard's incredible business hustle, almost nobody in the shop actually enjoyed working for him. Then came a freezing late-night moment in the dark that finally broke the dam. Late one evening in 2016, Aaron sat completely alone in his truck inside the quiet Gas Monkey parking lot. The shop lights were off, the engine was dead, and for the first time in 16 hours, the cameras were not flashing in his face. He stared through the dusty windshield at the building that had consumed his entire adult life. He waited to feel a spark of pride, or even anger. But nothing came. There was only a heavy, hollow silence inside his chest. That silence was the answer he had been avoiding for years. He knew that if he stayed, he would completely lose his passion for building cars altogether. So without shouting, without causing a dramatic scene on camera, Aaron began taking quiet steps toward his escape. He started making late-night phone calls to old contacts in the automotive world, searching for small commercial garage spaces around Dallas. When sleep would not come, he sat at his kitchen table drafting blueprint designs and researching tool suppliers. He did not want another lucrative TV deal, and he certainly did not care about becoming a bigger celebrity. He simply wanted absolute control over his own time, his own hands, and his own integrity. His vision was crystal clear. He wanted to build classic Ford F-100 pickup trucks from the late 50s to the late 70s. They were honest, rugged machines that required true craftsmanship rather than cheap gimmicks or rushed paint jobs. Most of us will never experience the surreal pressure of global fame or reality television. But almost every single one of us knows what it feels like to pour your heart, soul, and youth into a job or relationship, only to realize you are being taken for granted and losing yourself in the process. Taking that scary leap into the unknown to protect your peace is something everyone can relate to. When Aaron finally told the network executives that he wanted out, they panicked. Discovery offered him massive pay raises and better perks, assuming money could solve his frustration. But Aaron turned down every dollar. He told them he did not want a bonus or special treatment, he just wanted his freedom back. Negotiations dragged on behind closed doors for months. Richard eventually found out about Aaron's exit through network executives rather than directly from Aaron himself, sending shockwaves through the production. When Aaron officially walked away in early 2017, Richard released a statement claiming the departure caught him completely off guard. But deep down, both men knew the truth. The partnership had been dead long before Aaron ever handed in his keys. Aaron's final episode aired in March 2017, marking the end of an era that changed car culture on television forever. Viewers could instantly feel the massive void left behind. Without Aaron's quiet genius balancing Richard's hyperactive salesmanship, the soul of the shop seemed to evaporate. Fast and Loud continued for a few more seasons, but it was never the same. The spark was gone, ratings steadily declined, and Discovery quietly pulled the plug on the series in 2020. By the time the show was cancelled, Aaron was already miles ahead, building a completely new life on his own terms. Late in 2017, he officially opened ArcLight Fabrication in Dallas. The shop was modest, the team was small, and most importantly, there were no camera crews tracking his every breath. But building freedom proved to be a brutal challenge of its own. In the early months, the stress nearly crushed him. For over a decade, Aaron had only worried about metal fabrication while others handled payroll, vendor contracts, insurance, and taxes. Now, every single problem landed directly on his desk. He found himself trading a welding mask for spreadsheets and endless phone calls, working grueling hours just to keep the lights on. He later admitted that learning how to be a business owner was harder than anything he had ever done on television. Just as ArcLight was finding its footing, Discovery came knocking once again. Executive Craig Kaufman flew down to Dallas and spent hours over dinner convincing Aaron to return to television. Aaron refused to repeat his past mistakes. He made it clear that he would only come back if he had total creative control, realistic timelines, and final authority over the builds. The network agreed, leading to the creation of Shifting Gears in 2018. Unlike the high-pressure flips on his old show, this new project showcased complex, months-long builds like a massive off-road vehicle engineered for the punishing king of the Hammers race. While the ratings were more modest, Aaron didn't care. He had proven that he could produce television on his own terms without sacrificing his craft or selling his soul. Today, the dynamic between Aaron Kaufman and Richard Rawlings remains a quiet, distant memory. They are not bitter enemies, but they are certainly not friends. They exist in completely different worlds. Richard continues to chase massive business deals and media spotlights, while Aaron spends his days in the quiet hum of his workshop, fabricating custom parts and racing classic trucks up Pikes Peak. Looking back at the empire they built, it becomes clear that their explosive split was never really about a single villain or a sudden argument. It was the natural collision of two fundamentally different human beings. One man chased the spotlight, while the other simply wanted to build something real. The greatest lesson from Aaron's journey is that no amount of money, fame, or public success is worth sacrificing your peace of mind and personal integrity. True success isn't about how many people know your name, it's about having the courage to walk away from a toxic empire to build a life that is truly your own. But this wasn't the only unbelievable chapter of his life. The next story on your screen reveals an even bigger secret about what really happened behind the scenes that most people still don't know. If you think Aaron's story was intense, the hidden downfall of Gas Monkey Garage gets even darker. Click the video on your screen right now to uncover the dirty secret Richard Rawlings tried to hide from the entire world. Trust me, you don't want to miss this one.